Hi everybody. I recently had a question submitted to me by Katie DeCastro Scott. She said, my horse has problems loping to the left. He tends to drop his shoulder on there, and she asked if there's a series of groundwork exercises or riding exercises that I would give to my horse to help with this. And the answer is yes, there are some groundwork exercises. Basically, I just go through the whole program, teach them respect, confidence, softness, and that will help to a point. But some things, you just can get a lot more out of if you get up under saddle and start riding. And this one is one in particular where if your horse is dropping his shoulder one way loping, you're going to be able to fix it a lot quicker if you're riding him. So this is Talus. Talus is a 3-year-old paint, and he's been with me for exactly 1 month today. Today is his 15th ride with me. He had 5 days of groundwork, and then ever since then it's been groundwork and riding every day, so he's had 15 rides. Talus he's pretty balanced to the right, but he has problems going to the left as well. He drops his shoulders quite a bit and gets pretty off balance. So up until this point, and probably about the last maybe 3 or 4 rides, I've been real concerned about this. But until this point, if you can't get a couple basic things under saddle done, there's not really a big point in worrying so much about them dropping their shoulders at the lope. Basically, you just get them out there loping, confident, moving on a loose rein, stopping and soft. That's so much more important than whether they're standing their shoulders up. So there's a couple other things that we do work on, and let me show you. If you can't do these couple of small things first with your horse, there's no point in moving forward and trying to worry about them dropping their shoulders at the lope. The biggest thing is they have to be able to do a decent leg yield at the walk, trot, and at the lope. So what that is if their head's tilted one way, get their whole body going off your leg the opposite direction. So right here, his head's tilted to the right. Let's get him off my right leg, moving that body off of it. This is so important because just imagine for a second, if my horse is going around here on a right circle, everything's good, they're looking in, they're standing their shoulders up, and then all of a sudden they move their shoulders in to the right like this and look to the outside. Well, I can tilt that head to the right and just do this simple leg yield and get them right back on that circle how I needed them to be in the first place. All that is a simple leg yield exercise, which we've taught our horses from the beginning. So as long as you incorporate that early on, again, let's see how even just going to the left here, when I pull him out left like this, he wants to look to the right, drop his shoulders. He's just naturally, kind of built that way, and that's what he does. So I can take him right here, do a leg yield, get him back out of the circle, and then put him back on the circle. So you asked about this at the lope, so I'm going to do it at the lope, but usually if they do it at the lope, they do it a little bit at the walk and trot as well. So get that good first at the walk and then the trot, and then start doing it at the lope. If you can't do just a little leg yield like that, go back and get them soft and supple, respecting your legs, respecting the bridle. Another thing is they really do have to have a soft chin if you're working on a lot of the things at the lope. What I mean by that is when you pick up and squeeze, they need to be giving that and not having a lot of resistance against that. And the reason being is because when you start applying legs and asking them to move their body, especially at the lope and the higher speeds, they're just going to get more and more stiff and resistance to that. So if you're asking them to collect at the trot or the lope and they're going forward and they start really pulling on your hands, go back and spend some time in getting that chin a little bit softer, get their body softer. If you can't be doing this at the trot, then by the time you start putting your legs on and ask them to go one way or another like this, they'll start pulling your hands the reins out of your hands, and nothing's going to come good of that. It's just going to be really, really hard for you to correct. So if you can get those couple things done, though, then you're absolutely ready. And I thought it'd be a good idea to introduce a couple horses to you. So this is Talus, like I said, 15 rides. I've got another horse I'm going to bring out who he doesn't really have a dropping his shoulder problem, but he's a little bit more broke. He's had about 35 rides. So I'll show you how I would correct this on a horse like Talus, who's really just learning these exercises. And I'll show you how to correct it on a horse that knows a little bit more and is a little bit further along. So first off, let's get him loping. So if I put him on a loose rein and just kind of tell him to go in a left circle, it's pretty clear he's leading with his shoulder. He wants to look out of the circle. This is just how he likes to get around going to the left. Going to the right, he's actually pretty balanced. He does a lot better job. So it's interesting that Katie, her horse does it to the left and so does this one. That's actually a good thing because that was her question. So what I'll do first of all is I'm going to get both hands right up here and ready. The first thing I want to tell Talus from now on is, look, you have some confidence loping. Now I want you to be a little bit more refined about it, and I want you to look in to the circle at all times. So I'll take that nose and I'll kind of pull it into the circle and then release it. I'll pull it into the circle and then release it. So just through repetition, he's going to start learning that that release point comes when he's looking to the left on a left circle or to the right on a right circle. So there's no point in looking to the outside because that's not where the release is. So as you can see, Talus's circle got smaller and smaller. I pulled him to the left and he went left. That's very, very consistent with what happens at the beginning. That's where these leg yields are going to come into play. So from now on, if I pull his nose to the left and his body follows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left rein and I'm going to pull it kind of up in the air like this, which will help tilt his nose to the left, but it'll block his shoulders from falling to the left as well. And at the same time, I'm going to take my left leg. So let's kind of over-exaggerate. Say he's falling into the circle way over here. I'll pull up like this and I'll really put my left leg on him, bring him back out of the circle, like that, and then release when he's back on the circle. So again, if he falls in over here, I'm going to left leg, left rein, stand him up straight, get him on the circle, and then release. He's going to start to realize being on the outside of that circle with his shoulders standing up is the place that feels most comfortable. Right here, this is a leg yield, pushing his shoulders to the right. Here he's dropping in again, push his shoulders to the right, release. The most important part is that you release when they're on that circle and they're standing the shoulders up. Repetition, repetition, repetition. You're not going to fix this problem in a day. It's just going to get gradually a little bit better with better body control as you go. Another little thing that I'll do is I call this a serpentine on the circle. Now because he doesn't have a lot of body control, because he's just learning this stuff, he's a little baby, I'll make it very simple. I'll pull him to the left and then I'll pull him to the right, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So if I want to be on the circle here, I'll pull him inside the circle, then I'll pull him outside the circle. I'll pull him inside of the circle, and then I'll pull him outside of the circle. Inside of the circle. On it all the time. He'll be thinking that I'm drunk up here and he'll just start to say, can you just please put me on this circle? Very, very good. Another thing is if they're dropping their shoulder everywhere in the circle, it's probably a little bit inconsistent to what most horses do. Most of the time they'll say drop their shoulder here and lean out of the circle over there. Or, you know, vice versa. Wherever they drop their shoulder in, they usually lean out on the other side because they're trying to get somewhere. So if my horse was, say, let's say over there, he's coming through and he drops his shoulder here the most everywhere, what I'll do is I'll bring him through, and rather than keep on the circle over there, I'll bring him wide out as kind of far away from this circle over here, and I'll ask him to stop, rub on him, let him rest over here. Make him feel that there's a rest point outside of the circle where he wants to drop in the most. Give him, you know, just a minute or so. It doesn't have to be a super long time, but tell him that's a good spot to be outside of that circle over there. So he'll start to kind of pull away from that circle. Be careful you don't overdo it though. If you did this every day for too long, he'll start to push out of the circle over there. You'll have a whole new problem. So that's a really good idea too. Show him that the rest point is outside of that circle. And then go again. The biggest thing I could tell you though is if you have a nice soft horse, if you can squeeze them up into this bridle, get their chin soft, get their body soft, manipulate their body to do the things that you want, this isn't going to be very difficult at all. All you got to do is pick up, push the shoulders out, release. Over and over and over, and they'll figure it out. But if you can't do this basic stuff, getting their chin soft, getting their body soft, you're going to really struggle getting this problem fixed. A lot of horses do this to where they're running around the circle looking to the outside with their shoulder in. It's a very bad habit to let your horses get away with because it ends up putting them off balance. Those are the horses that fall over quite a bit because they're always leaning in with their shoulder. So really be aware that this isn't a hard problem to fix if you have a decent foundation. But if you're missing some things, go back and build that foundation, and you're going to find it's going to be much, much easier to fix. So this is basically all I'll do at a horse with this much training at this age, the amount of knowledge that he has. I'll just keep on repeating this stuff over and over, and every day it's going to get a little bit better, and it's not going to take much time at all. I would suspect maybe a couple more weeks until he's standing up pretty straight and pretty balanced on these circles. So that's all I do with a horse at this age. Now let me bring out the next one and show you guys, once they're a little further along, you could take it to a whole new level and teach it kind of on straight lines and other things as well. But they just need to be a little bit more broke than this one is. So start simple. If their knowledge isn't huge in a certain category, then don't push them past what they're capable of doing. Make it very simple for them to understand so they don't get frustrated if you're trying to push and get something figured out all the time. But then if they do know a little bit more, then you can take it to a new level. So I can't wait to show you that, and I'll bring him out now and we'll see where it goes from there. Thanks. Okay, so we're back trying to fix our horse with our loping to the left problem. They drop your shoulder in going to the left. So what we got Loki here with us today. Loki is a 2-year-old stud colt. This is his 35th ride today. So as compared to Talus, Talus had 15 rides, Loki has 35 rides. 20 rides at this stage, early on in their career, is a huge, huge difference. Loki's a year younger, but he's not quite as green as Talus. So we're going to be able to fix things on a little bit more refined type of scale. What I mean by that is we just have more exercises in our tool bag to be able to communicate with our horse to say, this is what I prefer you to be doing. And the main exercise that I want to show you as in regards to that is called counterbending. Whereas Talus only knew how to do a leg yield, so he was going in a straight line moving left or right. Loki's going to know a little bit more than that. So let me show you coming at the camera what I mean. We're going straight towards you. If I'm doing a leg yield, their head should be tilted one direction and their body should be going relatively straight the other direction. And that's great. And that will help fix that problem quite a bit. It'll be a very effective tool. An even better tool is called counterbending, whereas instead of my leg being in the middle of the body, my leg's going to be a little bit forward, controlling the shoulders. So the head's still tilted to the left, but my left leg is telling his shoulders to go to the right. This is really, really going to help us when we're loping those circles. So like we're going to the right now. So let's just go ahead and pretend we're going to the right, everything's good, and he starts, say, dropping his shoulder in. I'm going to pick up on this shoulder here. I'm going to counterbend him outside of the circle. I'm going to say, hey Loki, I really, really would appreciate it if you'd stand that shoulder up and do this for me, please. This is really going to get through to his head that he needs to keep that shoulder out of there. And then I'm going to put him back over going to the right. So let's just say he drops in over here. Again, I'm going to push this shoulder off over here like this. And then I'm going to get back in my circle, just like this. This is really, really going to help us. And this is just one of many tools that will help us a lot. So let's go ahead and go to the left, since that's where the problem was. So we'll get him loping here. Now at Loki's stage, rather than just squeezing and kissing at him, I'm actually going to grab hold of his face a little bit, ask him to collect here, push his hip up here to my left like this, and ask him to take a proper departure. It wasn't the prettiest, but at his stage it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be on the right track. So what I'm going to do with Loki, he's far enough along to where if I just barely touch him with this right rein on his neck, he should know how to stay into this circle all by himself. So I'm not going to be pulling so much with that left rein. So right here he's leaving the circle actually. I'm just going to pull him back in here and ask him to pay attention. If they leave the circle, I just over-exaggerate it and pull them back into the circle. And then just say, okay Loki, get back on this circle and go from here. So if everything is good, their body's straight, their head's straight, everything's where I'm looking, then that's great. Here he's actually leaving the circle. He's doing the opposite problem. I'll fix it real quick and then I'll show you how to correct the actual problem that was asked. So if everything's good, their body's doing good, but their head isn't quite bent as much as you want, just like Talus, I'm going to use my left leg and my left rein and get them to look to the left. And then I'm going to release. Then look to the left, then release. Look to the left, release. Just through repetition, that's all that it takes. And they don't have to be, they don't have to be looking like way over to the left like that. All they need to do is if I see that left eye, that's good enough for me. That means that they're thinking about where they should be going and they're going that direction. So we're loping. everything, he actually feels pretty good right here. So let's just say he dives his shoulder in like this. I'm gonna drop him down into a trot, and I'm gonna counter bend him off of my left leg. I'm gonna say, please move those shoulders over there to the right, please. Then I'm gonna get him back in shape here and get him right back on this circle. It doesn't hurt every now and again to just squeeze him up into the bridle. Ask him to soften his chin a little bit, and then release him. So every time he drops that shoulder in a little bit, let's just make him do it right here too. He drops in, I'm gonna drop him down. He overread that right there. I'm gonna drop him down into the trot, get him off of my left leg, move those shoulders away please, and then go right back onto my circle. That will fix this problem pretty quick. It's a great tool to use to get your horse thinking to drop that shoulder in so much. Now actually Loki wasn't making that problem, I just made that problem for him. He actually was leaning out a couple times, so it's still, I was able to demonstrate just by showing you what would happen if he did it. So another thing that I'll do, well, I showed you this with Talus to where I do the serpentines in and out of the circle, to where I'd pull him this way, I'd pull him this way, pull him this way. Well, Loki has so much more body control right now that I can use my legs a little bit more and actually soften up while he's going in and out of that circle. So rather than just pulling his nose one way or the other, I'm going to do some leg yields left and right to get him in and out of this circle. So right here I'm going to pull him to the left, use my left leg, leg yield him to the right, leg yield him to the left, leg yield him to the right, leg yield him to the left, leg yield to the right, leg yield to the left. I'm going to make this going in and out of the circle the hard part, and then by the time I let him back on the circle, that's the good part. He's going to start to say, can't we please be on the circle? And then just go here, soften him up, let him loose on the circle, and he's going to be, oh, thank goodness for this circle. As long as we're not in or out of the circle, everything is very simple. That's what I want him to be thinking in his mind. Let's pick up again, push him in the circle with our right leg, out of the circle with our left leg. Into the circle with our right leg, out of the circle with our left leg. And then soften him up, let him find this spot on the circle. As long as he's standing his body up, everything is good. And that feels pretty nice right there. So let me bring him at you. I ask him to stop real quick. Bring him over here. Cool. Good boy. So that's the way to help it on the circle. Okay, if a horse is dropping their shoulder on the circle, they're more than likely going to drop it any time they turn, and they're probably going to drop it on straight lines as well. So I'm going to show you a couple exercises because we do have some more body control with this horse. A couple ways to fix that problem and a couple exercises to use to help keep your horse standing up. Whether they're making the problem or not, it's still just a good idea to practice these exercises. So he worked good for me right there, so I'm just giving him a few seconds to rest. Tell him he did a good boy. He's at the stage now where I'm not doing a whole lot of flexing back and forth anymore. That was very important at the beginning. Right now, he knows it so well and he's so soft at that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. I'm just going to let him soak it up a little bit. I might just pick up with both reins and ask him to soften his chin a little bit. But mostly, I'm just going to let him soak that up and think about what we did. So he's had enough time for that now. So let me give you a couple exercises when you're on straight lines or when you make a turn, how to fix a horse that's dropping their shoulder a little bit. I'll show you first at a trot, and then I'll show you a little bit at the lope as well. So horses that drop their shoulder in when you turn. Let's say you're going straight here, and then you want to turn to the right, and he actually stood up really nice right there and then went perfectly straight. That was perfect. But let's just say you pull to the right and they do this. They dive their shoulders and they nearly fall over when you push them in that circle. A great exercise is to pick a square pattern in your mind. So come here, make a sharp 90-degree turn, and then immediately push them out straight, 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 straight. Okay, then 90-degree turn, straight, 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 straight. And this will actually help a horse that's pushing his shoulder into the circle or a horse that's leaning his shoulder out of the circle, because by the time that they turn, they have to straighten up their body and get balance again because they're just going straight. So they're not going to be thinking about continually turning, which a horse does that's leaning in, or they're not going to be thinking about going straight because it's a sharp turn, and that's what a horse thinks when they're going or leaning out of the circle. So straight, 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 straight. Also, another great exercise when you're on straight lines and you have a horse that leans in. Most of the time, if they're leaning really bad, you'll go on a straight line, like let me come towards you. If I'm going straight at the camera, my hands are forward, he's coming right at you. Okay, most of the time if they're leaning really bad, they'll kind of look like this when your hands are straight, and they'll just kind of leave that line and be pushing one way or another, and you're always kind of having to hold them up. A great exercise to fix that is to kind of push their shoulder out of the road and make a little pocket for yourself to turn in and then turn. So if I'm going straight and my horse tends to lean to the left, I'll kind of push over, push over, push over, and then turn to the left. So he's always going to clear that shoulder before he turns. So push over, push over, push over, and then turn to the left. Let me show you at the lope. It actually makes a little bit better sense at the lope. So I'll do my wagon wheel exercise here to where I'll make lots of turns so I can show you. So after this turn, every time I turn to the left, I'll push his shoulders out first. So I'll be coming here, I'll set him up, I'll create a little pocket here, push him, push him, push him, and then make this left-hand turn. He got a little stiff there, so I softened him. So push the shoulders out to the right, pull him over to the left. Come in here, push the shoulders out to the right, make that pocket, turn into that pocket. Straight, 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 push the shoulders off my left leg, turn to the right. Coming at you, so I make this pocket here, and then I let them come and turn in. Which is the opposite of horses that dive in. They don't like that pocket because they just want to drop their shoulders in there. So by creating that pocket, you're telling them to stand up, stand up, stand up, and then come into the circle. So they're already standing their shoulders up. Whoa. They're already standing their shoulders up nice and straight by the time you let them turn. So rather than them leaning like this and then falling into that circle, they're up like this and then they're allowed to come. And that's what I like to think is I'll allow them to turn rather than saying, let's go ahead and turn now. Set them up to where they're in the best possible position to do that turn, and then go ahead and let them make that. So they'll start to kind of seek that if they want to go that direction. They need to have their body in a certain shape and be prepared to do that. So those are just a few little tips, and you know, this horse, after 35 rides, I'm able to do it a little bit more advanced. Well, after 50 rides, you're able to do even more advanced, and then 75 rides, even more, and it just keeps on getting a little bit more refined all the time. But really, if you have a good foundation on them and start them off right, yes, they're going to do these little problems. You know, they're horses, they're just animals, but at the same time, they're started so well that those problems are pretty minimal. And then all you got to do is show them the right answer and then release them and say, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. Over and over and over again, so you're continually showing them the right thing, and then they start to seek that because they know that that's the right answer, rather than, I'm not a big fan of saying, I'm going to punish you for doing the wrong answer. That just, to me, gets a horse that's real rigid and kind of stiff going around because they're so afraid of leaving the circle or turning to the left too sharp. You know, I don't want that at all. I want my horse to know in his mind that he's doing the right thing, so it's that much softer and better. So I hope that works for you guys and that those ideas help you out with your horse, and feel free to leave me any more questions. I'd love to answer them. Thanks guys, have a good one.